Okay, everybody, I just sent you an email and posted an announcement. This is for all of you in 4403. And this is going to be part one. I'm going to probably end up doing three screencasts to cover the stuff that we did today. This will be the first one, and I may get the other two done today, more likely Friday morning. Again, I sent you an email. I do want to, again, sincerely apologize about these technical issues. I wish I could fix them. But what we will do is simply this. If you're out there in screencast land, you can come in via Zoom and you can hear and see everything. If you're in the lab, just simply you'll use the lab and then log in to you'll log into Canvas and then go into Zoom. Basically you go into Canvas if you're in the room in there with me in the lab, and you can hear and see everything. You'll just see it on your screen. It won't be on the big screen. There's something that's got to be resolved, and I just don't want to waste your time dealing with it. Nonetheless, I want to go back over here now to 4403, okay? And I'm going to give us about a 25, maybe 30 minutes of just some work. And thank you. For those of you who are there in the lab today, thank you so much for being so gracious. I do truly value your time. And so we'll go through this. Now, again, we're in week one, and we're looking at weeks. Today is the 30th. And I want to make sure, first of all, that you know that this file, this Excel file, will be what you'll turn in for Access Workshop number 2, okay? And I want to, again, we talked about data warehouse architecture and concepts. It's the PowerPoint over there and I want to encourage you, please take a look at it, because it will really give you some insights into what's different from a data warehouse from just simply a database. And there's about 8 or 9 screens, or about 8 or 9 of them. They're very, very good, and they will clarify a lot and tell you the difference. In the end, we use a data warehouse as a repository, a place to save data that we're going to use. And then we have, we'll be able to run queries, so we can take the data that's stored in various tables and turn it into information. Now, there are going to be times when we don't want it. There are going to be times where you may encounter a situation where the vendor that's providing you the database does not provide you a database that's really susceptible to doing the kinds of heavy lifting from a mathematical standpoint that Excel does. May not even have the ability for you to create a chart, okay, so you can visualize the data. So one of the things that we talk about, and a key piece of this, is taking the data warehouse, using it for what it is, and then exporting data that you can do some further work with. Now, I want to go down here, and we're going to look at this fact sales, and want to download it, okay? And there it is. And we're going to open it up. Now, as we talked about in our first class session, and as I talked about Tuesday, all right, we use a database as a repository. We use a data warehouse as a repository that's oriented towards some particular function or sales or events. And the reason that this is the file you'll turn in for Access Workshop number 2. And so what's your point? Okay, here's my point. Now you're in an environment where you can do any one of a number of things. For example, you could create a pivot table to analyze these data, and it may be easier working with the pivot table to manipulate the variables than it is for you to just simply try to run queries. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. All right, we've got all these data here, and I'm going to highlight all of them. And it's a fact sales table. What they mean is these are records of sales. A fact is something I can measure. And so a sale includes, it's factual in basis. Now, we know the who, what, when, and where, and all that. Now, if I want to now, I'm in the position where I can use, I can create a pivot table if I want. I could try to use conditional formatting. I can filter and sort these. You could do that running the queries, but it may not provide you the opportunity to also do more of the visual display that you want to do. The whole point is this. We'll use a data warehouse as a repository, as a place to go get the stuff that we want. But then once we have that information, that data, we need to turn it into information. And information is data that's actionable. I can do something with it. Now, in this case, we could insert, as I said, we can insert a pivot table. We could use sorts and filters and all kinds of things. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click insert, and I'm going to do pivot table, and I'm going to have it put it into a new worksheet, and let's take a look at it. Now, this should look very familiar to you because we worked with pivot tables in BISS 1123 when we covered Excel cases. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, the pivot table is one of the most versatile, if not powerful, tools at our disposal when we use Excel. I'd say only the pivot table, the only thing that's more powerful than pivot table or useful are the statistics add-ons in Excel, most specifically Solver, which is where you can do optimization. Well, we've got this blank sheet over here on the left side, as you can see, and I've got my pivot table fields. So I'm going to start with sales dates, okay? And I'm going to put them over here in the rows. And you'll see I have these dates when things were sold. And I'm not curious yet about, I'm curious about the sales type. What types of sales have occurred? And I'll put that in the columns, and you'll see that pop up. Okay? And so we have these different types of sales. I'll open this up a little bit. All right, and they gave us zeros here, so I'm going to back that out. And instead of that, you see how, and you remember how easy it is, I'm going to do sales date in the rows. I'm going to put customer ID into the columns. Okay. And we have 10 customers. And then here in this values section, I'm going to put, in the values section, I'm going to put the order number. All right. And I'm going to do a simple count of them. In fact, we have that here. So now if you look, I can tell I have the customers up in the top, okay, and then I have the rows are the dates that sales occurred, and I have the sum of those sales per date. Now I can come over here and I want to come over to the values, and I'm going to click value field settings. Now, these are sums, all right? But that's not descriptive enough. It's, to know that we had two sales occur on the 6th, the 11th of June is great, but I want to do a count. Now, there we go. Okay? And that's how many sales occurred. Now, when I go back here, and I go back to the value field settings, and I'm going to put the sum. So we probably have some duplicate sales here. Now, if I wanted, I could go ahead and put the product ID in there. So I'm going to take the product ID and just move it into, I'm going to put the product ID into a filter, and there you'll see it. So I have for everybody. Now, if I'm interested in product ID 2, I'll click that and I get it. This is stuff we did in BISS 1123, and so there's no great revelation here. But what's important is that we used the repository, the data warehouse, okay, to get the data we wanted. And this is, and we took that fact sales table and we exported it to Excel. Now I've done messed around with a pivot table here, and we can go back to the fact sales, all right? And I could to visualize these, I could put them into. I could do some conditional formatting, and let's see, and I have the sales date line, have the order number. Oh, okay, those are order numbers, not the this is a serial thing, so that's where I had us misled. Yeah, okay. So instead of the sum of the orders, I should have a count. Okay, now and we did that to look at that for that product ID number 3. Now we're back here in this other sheet, okay, and now we see the row labels, etc. We've chosen we've got the order number is in the column. We've got the line costs, okay, and the line price in rows. And we really, let's take those out of here. And I'm going to come back to our familiar friend, the sales date, and put it in the rows, okay. And I have order numbers up here in the columns. Now I also want to count them, so I'm going to take the order number and put it down here in the values, okay? And so you'll be able to see. Now I can go ahead and add some things here to give myself a visualization, if I so care to. Another option for me would be to come up here and I could sort and filter these. And I could do just a custom sort to just get another look. Because again, I'm looking for data that I can use, turn into turn into actionable information that's actionable. And so I'll do the sort and filter. I'll do a custom sort, make sure all my data has headers. And I want to sort by the sales date. And I want to sort, let's see. And I want to put newest to oldest. And then I'm going to, let's see, I want to add a level. And I'm going to put the customer ID okay? And I'll do smallest to largest, and let's see what we get, okay? And there we have what shows us the dates, the different customer ID, the channel ID, etc. Now, if I wanted to, I can come back here. And as I said before, we had the problems today. For every dimension that I have, and I have these dimensions or variables, okay, I can square that, and that tells me how many potential, the number of potential comparisons I can make. Okay, so this was to speak with you about that. Now, and you'll want to save this file to your desktop and then upload it, where I ask you to upload the work for the fact sales. All right, and I'm put up here here's the Access Workshop 1. Here's Access Workshop 2. Now, to further build on this, I want to make, and I didn't get a chance for us to do this, but I am going to do it, and we'll spend maybe a little more time. I want to show you this file called the Information Design Options, okay? And here are, information is a resource. Other than people, it's the most valuable resource any company has. And as you start collecting data, it costs you money. It costs you money to get it. It costs you money to sort it. It costs you money to try to process it, to put it into something that's meaningful. So you always want to think about, what's my information design? And you say, what do you mean? Let's take a look at what I've got here for us. This is kind of I think you can read my handwriting. But notice that we have, okay, this dimension that's time-based. When, where, what, how, and with whom, which is a tree or a network. Now, when, that's, and I have in parentheses, a time series or isolated. A time series data, and then I show you geospatial data, like the place and the location. Then some process data, how did the sale occur? And then with whom, some type of tree or network. Now you'll notice that I come over here, and the with whom also includes suppliers, okay, operatives, and the users. So I've said, okay, this is what I'm after. And if you start with, and somebody says you start with the basic questions of when, where, what, how, and with whom. Now you don't know the why, okay? You could have a dimension of why, you could call it customer motivations, whatever. But you need to be careful with that. Make sure you've got good data. And as you'll notice, as I scroll down, I have under temporal, one time, sporadic, periodic, or continuous. One time is a sale that occurs once, or an event that occurs once. Sporadic would be more like random occurrences. Periodic fits into more of seasonal or particular hours of the day, that type of thing. And then continuous is where we're getting data on a continuous stream. We're getting a continuous stream of data. Now, Amazon has a continuous stream of data, as people are buying, the inventory shifts, etc. Okay, and then you have some options here in terms of the analytical cube, i.e. the information design options. And this is, and I give you the source, what it's adapted from. But this is as good a tool as I know that's out there, or a way to look at this. And each of these tell you something. Now, in combination, you would have a record. But you may want to isolate some of these and take a look. Now, take us down here to the module, and we're going to open up, and you'll want to download it to your desktop, this file called Northwind Traders. Now, Northwind Traders is a sample database, a template database for a sales organization that was developed by Microsoft. And it's really, really a good way to see a data warehouse in its most simple context. All right. Now, we're going to open this up, and I'll enable the content, and I'm just going to log in. Notice that we have a dashboard. Active orders. Oh, do I want to know that? Yes. Do I want to know if I need to reorder inventory? Totally. I don't want to. And then we have some click links as well. But this is basically, this is a dashboard. A dashboard is really nothing but a display or a button or something like that that you press to run a query based on particular criteria. All right. So this is the display, and really what this is a form. That's all. But but here are the things I want to know. Do I have any active orders? Do I need to reorder any inventory because I don't want to run out? And how much do I need? What's available, and what's the reorder point? And then I have some quick links, etc., to some other things like suppliers, employees, shippers, and a sales report. Let's click on the sales report real quickly. And notice that we can see this is periodic. As I mentioned in the information design, we want to know our monthly sales, our quarterly sales, and our yearly sales. Okay? And we can get that by category, country, customer, employee, or product. If I want that report, it's there for me to get. Now I'm going to close this Northwind Trader. I'm going to close this off. And let's go down and take a look at some more. Let's look at these tables. Now you remember I talked about what we call dimension tables. And these are variables. Customers, that's a dimension table. Employee privileges, same there. The employees, that's that is a dimension table. Inventory transactions, that's a little sketchy, and let's open it up for a minute and take a look at it. And this is more like a fact table. The reason why is I know the dates, okay, which I can count, quantities, which I can count, supply, multiply, divide. I can look at summary statistics. A fact table tends to be exactly what it says, facts, things I can measure, add up, etc. And we'll just, over here, and there we are. So we have that fact table. Now we have an invoices. Let's open that one up. All right. Now this one is indeed another facts table. It shows us tax that's applied, the shipping cost, the amount due, the due date, stuff that I can add, multiply, compute, utilize statistics of some type, analytics. That's what makes it a fact table. And now we're going to come over to the order details, and my hunch would be it's also, and it is indeed a fact table. Well, then we have some other descriptive dimensional data like the inventory ID, what type of inventory, and the product and the order ID. That's a fact table. Let's look at the order details status. Now, this, okay, is a dimension table. You say, what do you mean? If you look at it, these are labels or categories or types of order status of an order. It doesn't exist. It's been allocated. It's been invoiced, it's been shipped. It's on order, or there's no stock. We apply these to categorize these events. Okay. Now, here's the orders table. And again, the orders table is a fact table because it's stuff we've got that we can count. We can perform numerical operations. As I said before, it's analogous to a general journal. Okay? Now, here we see the order status again. We'll open that up. That's a dimension table. Privileges, let's open that up. It's a dimension table. Purchase approvals, products. The products table. This is a fact table because I've got these cost and list price and reorder data in them. Once you start to kind of see that, you'll start to see, oh, okay, this whole idea is we have a warehouse and we have stuff in them, certain types of stuff. Instead of maybe, nuts and bolts, it's names and addresses. And then we'll come down here and you'll see the queries. Inventory sold. And queries will generate for us specialized data. The order price totals, the order summaries. Now, as I said before, when we talk about the information design, we want to know if I'm collecting sales data, do I want it by the hour, by the day, by the week, by the month, by the quarter, on a semi-annual basis and on an annual basis? Okay. Do I want to keep historic data? In other words, all of those time frames and the sales that fit into them as historical data, so I can track through and say what's the customer buying from me this year versus what they bought last year. So it's a really, really good way for us to work. Now, you'll notice there are some forms, and we've talked about forms before. Forms are nothing more than an object in a database that makes it easier to input data and into a table. That's all it is. And we've seen that. You interact with forms all the time. When you go download music, well, when you go to your phone is essentially a database. It's a smartphone, but it's really meant to do what? Take you to particular places or open up particular apps. So when you have your phone and you open it up, or you have your phone and you look at all the apps, you're going to be running a query of some time. Now, what's in there will be something that maybe the app is probably going to be out on the web, but you're still using that phone's acting like a database. How do I know? Because if you take pictures, you can store them. It keeps your contacts, phone numbers, etc. So you start to see, okay, just like you have a smartphone and you say, what apps do I want on this? A company has to say, what data do I want? What information is important that I have to have right now? And then anything else, other key performance indicators, we'll put them into a lesser role, or we might run reports to get them. And then we start to see some of these other objects down here, the home, the inventory list, purchase products. Any one or all of these down here, I could easily run the query and then export the data, the result set over to Access. Pardon me, to Microsoft Excel, or whatever you use to compute these. Okay? All righty. Now, I want to take a look at one other thing, okay? And it's this. We're going to do an export. So I'm going to open Northwind Traders up again. And I'm going to download it. And I'm okay. I'll enable the content. I'll log in. And I'm going to take, let's see, product category by sales date. Now I'm going to right click it and I'm going to export it to Excel. Now, again, one of the ways we teach you to drive the car is to think about what the platform is. If you take a look here, here's the ribbon with your choices. The ribbons tend to follow a tree. If you can see the tree, I say, okay, I want to export it. And here are my choices. And then I do whatever visualization of the data, i.e. charts, tables, or pivot tables, whatever works best that you can display and someone can see it and make a decision about it, and understand it. That's the whole point. All right. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop at this point because I think it's a good place for us to stop. Because I have some materials up here in this course orientation that I want to share with you, but I don't want to take the additional time. I think we've gone maybe 20, 25 minutes, so this will be a first video, and I'll post this as part 1 of 3. So we're going to do 3 parts for all intents and purposes. Now, as we come upon next week, all right, our meetings are the 4th and on the 6th, and I have some of the familiar types of things that we're going to look at. These are applications out in the real world using a database, and I'm looking to see, and the only thing you have coming up is the exam over Chapter 1, POTSI, and that's 1 attempt, 75-minute limit, 30 items. That's due the 6th, which would be, let's see here, today, it'd be the 6th, would be next Thursday. Okay? So you'll have that one exam that's due. And the POTSI text, I want to show you that real quickly. I'm going to click on Vital Source. All right. And I'll pull that up here for just a second. And here it is. And the introduction, and this is the POTC text. Okay, and notice that they give us Northwind Traders. Okay, now folks, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call it a day on this. And again, my thanks for your very, very gracious courtesy as we set through and fumbled through all of that. And I've sent out an email to all of you. And I've also put a post on how we're going to do it. And just, I'm going to quit trying to use a projector in there until I can get someone to help me figure out what I'm doing or it's not doing, or maybe some of both. Okay? Again, as I said in the initial email I sent out to all of you and in the announcements, if you're going somewhere this Labor Day, please be careful. Come back to us. And you got my traveling mercies. I'll be praying for you. And if you're not going anywhere, I just hope you have a real blessed holiday weekend and come back and be ready to work and enjoy this wonderful tool that the Lord gave us called a database. And if he didn't believe in him, he would never have created DNA. DNA is the primary, every database that's effective has every record has a primary key. You have a primary key. It's called your DNA. The good Lord's pretty smart, isn't he? Okay. Thank you much, folks. Have a good one. And I'll see you next week.